I've got the CIPA numbers for February, and they're not looking very good. That's this February. But I also have total units shipped for 2021. And I did want to get this information out to you sooner, but, well, we had the OM1 and the GH6 in February. And, well, this month I've been a bit busy with doing testing. But take a look right here. We have the total units shipped for February 2022, and they're not very good. 494,000 units. And that's for both DSLRs and mirrorless, as well as integrated lens cameras or point and shoots. Just under 500,000 units shipped. That's not a very good February. 2020 and 2021 were right around the same number, but 2022 is looking to be worse, and there's many reasons for this. It's very difficult for companies to get the necessary inventory or the parts and materials to be able to ship products, so there's that aspect too. 2022 isn't better, it's worse off than 2021 and 2020. And this goes beyond chip shortages. It's about resourcing, it's about materials, it's about components, it's about global conflicts and global economic slowdowns. It's all of that rolled into one and baked into a nasty bit of cake. That means it's a whole lot harder for these companies. Canon, Nikon, Sony, Lumix, Pentax. They want to get cameras out. They got to be strategic. They got to be crafty. But there's something else as well. One of the reasons that smartphone cameras have done so very, very well is they have, at the very least, annual updates where they're refreshing the technology. They're getting better and better at the hardware, but more importantly, to make up for the inability to perform in the hardware side, they're using computational photography and videography to produce much better results. They're punching above their hardware, and they're doing this year after year. Well, in the camera world, it's the same thing. The more that camera companies innovate and release updates, the more it excites people, the more it gets people to want to update and purchase, and maybe not move off onto smartphones, because there's still a lot of people that are moving off to smartphones. That is why we continue to see units shipped going down. It's not just because of the market conditions, it's also because people are deciding, you know what, smartphones are good enough for them. And that's the problem. We're seeing announcements that are being put off. Let's use Canon as an example. In 2018, October, we had the announcement of Canon's first full-frame mirrorless camera, and that was the EOS R. Then in January, we had the EOS RP. Then we had to wait a full 2 years and a bit until July of 2020 before we got the R5 and the R6. And then just late last year, we got the R3. And there's a huge hole in Canon's lineup. They're waiting too long before they give us updates. The same for Sony, Nikon, Pentax. If these companies don't get cameras out quicker, if they keep delaying, well, that means they're going to get less sales because people know they're working on stuff. And why do they know? Well, channels like mine keep reporting on what is being rumored, information that's coming out of these companies. And if I don't do it, others are going to do it. The information is out there. And people know if you've had a camera for 2 years, 3 years, or if a camera's been out for 2 or 3 years, you know that an update is coming soon, so why go ahead and purchase? So whether I report anything or not, if we look at a camera such as the A7S III back in 2018, 2019, we knew that a refresh was imminent. We didn't think it was going to take 5 years for a refresh. Same with a Panasonic GH6. We knew a refresh was imminent. Again, we didn't think it was going to take 5 years. So there's a lot of cameras out there that are approaching that 2-year mark. The R5, the S1, the S1R, the S1H later this year. There are a lot of cameras due for an update. The Sony A7R5, the A9 Mark III. And of course, Sony does have one hole in the lineup. It's only one small hole, and that's an entry-level full-frame mirrorless camera, the one area that Canon has in the Canon EOS RP, which is cheap, $999, and on sale, $899. Now, while it's certainly far from a video powerhouse, for any photographer that's looking to get into full frame, it's still, even today in 2022, a bargain at $899 with neither Sony, Nikon, or Lumix having a camera that comes close to competing with it on price alone. So we've got several factors influencing the market right now. We have, I'm just going to call it a global economic slowdown that's got many, many different reasons. We've got material shortages, we've got raw material shortages, we've got component shortages, we have semiconductor shortages, we have a slowness in all the channels, from shipping to resourcing to offloading at the docks to container ships queued in the docks. There are just so many different reasons as to why we are where we are. And of course, they're not releasing products like they were planning to. Canon would already have released about 5 to 7 cameras already by 2020, but 5 to 7 cameras have already been delayed. And the C50, the C90, 2 8K cinema cameras, a 4K cinema camera, a replacement for the EOS RP, the EOS R, an R7, a replacement for the Canon 90D in the mirrorless line. And of course the R1. Well, I think the R1 is one of those few cameras that I think is marching to its own drum. They're taking time. They're waiting to see how the R3 performs. They're taking customer feedback from that camera as well as the 1DX Mark III. And they're using that feedback to fine-tune the R1. According to Craig at Canon Rumors, he still doesn't believe that that camera is in a final state at this point. They're still tweaking software at the very least, and maybe even the hardware. But for these numbers to get better, we need to see the world return to normal. For one, we need to see camera companies release innovating and exciting cameras like Canon did with the R5, the R5C, Nikon did with the Z9, and Sony did with the Alpha 1, and of course the GH6, which, forget the autofocus, guys. It is an amazing camera. Just look underneath the hood and see what that camera has. But we need to see more of these. We need to see refresh cycles of 2 years, not 5 years, for this to work. We're just in a strange time. And if you're thinking that 2022 things are going to get better, or 2023, now think to 2025. I think it's going to take to at least 2025 before we get back to a normal type of supply chain logistics of shipping goods and services. I think we're a long way off from that. But now a little bit of looking behind the scenes, talking about receiving feedback from 1DX Mark III owners or Canon R3 owners. In a recent survey Canon sent out to purchasers of the 1DX Mark III, they included a survey asking where, or they included a question asking where people are getting their research from, where they're getting their news from that help influence how they buy their camera. And for the first time ever, thanks to one of you, sent me this screenshot in, and you can take a look right here. No surprising, I am on the list. The ordinary filmmaker, after 2 years, showing up at Canon. And this is a pretty big deal for me. I'm only at 27,000 subscribers. I'm several places up from Tony Northrup. Look at that. I'm in the same group, the same cluster as Think Media, Tony and Chelsea Northrup, Potato Jet, Matt Granger. This is just incredibly amazing to me that I'm actually being noticed. And I've said this before, I know they're watching, but for them to actually put me in their literature, to take notice of me, to recognize me, because this, don't kid yourselves, they're recognizing me. And I think that's a really big deal. So when this was shown to me, I smiled a little bit, because for me, it's a little bit of recognition, and recognition in a big way from one of the biggest camera companies. Well, actually the biggest camera company out there. Canon still has near 50% market share of DSLR mirrorless cameras. So to show up on one of their surveys, I think is a pretty big deal. I don't think it's going to help propel me to 100,000 subscribers anytime soon. I don't think it's going to help launch me in any sort of success, and I don't think they're going to start using me as an ambassador. I cover rumors, and let's be honest here, when you cover rumors, they're not going to want to have anything to do with me because, well, they're rumors. And if I decide to work for Canon in any aspect whatsoever, I'm going to have to sign an NDA, and I can't cover rumors, at least for Canon. And I'm not about to do that. I like covering rumors. In fact, this is one of the most enjoyable things I do. I get to talk about the latest and the greatest, and for me, that's an awful lot of fun. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.